What is so special about this missile? What happened? Well, Ansarullah have been conducting attacks against Israel. Yeah, of course, many of them landed. Israel, however, did intercept some, and they did show images and videos of interception coming against the missiles that are being launched from Yemen. So what exactly happened this time? Well, there was one interesting report coming from Yemen, from Al-Mayadeen correspondent in Yemen, in Sana'a, saying that there's actually something behind this missile that made it succeed. What is it exactly? Well, Ansarullah are not saying exactly which missile they used this time. So it's usually they declare it's a Palestine 2 hypersonic missile or a Dhul Faqar hypersonic missile. This time they did not declare, but the correspondent from Yemen said that they did launch a missile, but this missile was actually a developed missile. Okay, saying that the Yemeni army has developed its missile and strategic weapons, making them capable of bypassing radar systems, and has also developed air defense weapons. It's just that the armed forces in Yemen continue to develop hypersonic missiles, both quantitatively and qualitatively, as well as the naval weapons and drones, despite the aggression, meaning that this is a modified missile. This is a modified missile coming from Yemen, and despite the continued aggression against them from the United States and the genocide cartel, for them standing up against a genocidal entity committing war crimes with a wanted war criminal leading the country, and more war criminals, by the way, are due to come on the list now. The ICC is preparing a new list of people to be added to the war criminal list who would be wanted internationally. The United States did not stop them, not only from continuing the attacks, but from developing new weapons, from modifying their existing arsenal, and from modifying new weapons to go and attack Israel. How is Iran linked to all of this? Israel is saying that Iran has a direct involvement in these attacks. How? According to a report in Israel, they're saying that this has been a maneuver by Iran. This attack was a maneuver by Iran. So we had this report in the Israeli Ma'arif saying the direct hit on Ben Gurion airport, Iran's maneuver against Israel has now been revealed. They're saying the Air Force has launched a comprehensive investigation with the aim of trying to understand how the air defense system failed this morning to intercept the missile launched from Yemen, and the fall was detected at Ben Gurion airport. So according to this report, they are conducting an investigation, but they're linking it already to Iran. They're saying that we tried to intercept it with ARROW-3 and with the THAAD missile system. They didn't say if they used David's Sling or the Iron Dome, because usually Israel has a multi-layered air defense system that is activated based on what they're attacked with. Anything hypersonic or exoatmospheric, ARROW-3 begins, then the THAAD, closer to the Israeli airspace, something that is much closer to the land, Iron Dome, because Iron Dome is usually developed to intercept short-range missiles, primarily from Gaza and from Lebanon. This is the main purpose behind its development. So Israel has a multi-layered air defense system, like many countries across the world. Yes, despite this multi-layered air defense system, it failed miserably. Now, according to this report in Israel, they're saying that these missiles missed the target. They said an American system, an ARROW-3, millions. An ARROW-3, $2 to $3 million, one missile. That's it. And we're not talking about the activation and time and stuff, and we're not talking about that yet. They're saying that, the Intelligence and Terrorism Information Center, named after Major General Meir Amit, saying that the Houthis, they're quoting him, have Quds 2 and Quds 3 missiles, which have effective ranges of between 1,300 to 2,000 kilometers and could effectively hit targets in Israel, which is more than 1,500 kilometers away from Yemen. And Joshua Kaliski, an INCC researcher, he, according to that report, previously published an article about the Houthi capabilities and the fact that their missiles ranging from 1,600 kilometers to 2,000 kilometers are actually the advanced Iranian Shihab-3 missile, which has a range of 2,000 kilometers, and also the Burkan-3 with a range of approximately 1,200 kilometers. He's also adding the Sumar cruise missile in its various versions with a range of 2,000 kilometers and a warhead of half a ton. Another cruise missile, according to that report, with a shorter range is Quds 2 and the Samad 4 attack drone with 2,500 kilometers with a warhead of 45 kilograms. This is saying that, well, Iran is directly involved. They're adding in this article that this is a signal to the Americans and Israel regarding the possibility of an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities if negotiations between the Americans and Iran run aground and they do not work and fail. So Israel's already tying it with Iran. Could there be a link to Iran? Yes, there could be a link to Iran, of course. How? Well, Iran has been one of the main countries supporting Ansarullah. Of course, they're independent at the end of the day. They develop their own stuff too, but they are backed by Iran. They are supported undeniably by Iran, despite them having full independence. As a matter of fact, their whole political positions and constant responses to the Israeli terror inside of Gaza has been independent, an independent move coming from them that hasn't been similar to other groups or other countries. This is a position coming from the Yemeni people and the Yemeni leadership and the Yemeni armed forces, and they are paying the price because of this. Now, Israel is tying this to Iran because of the link. There is an undeniable link. And does Iran have a reason to push Ansarullah for more successful attacks against Israel? Perhaps. How? Well, Israel has been a country that constantly tries to hinder the prospect of reaching a deal between the United States and Iran. There were 3 rounds of talks between the United States and Iran, talks about positivity. Donald Trump himself saying that he outright prefers the diplomatic approach and having a deal rather than having a no deal and having war with Iran. And he previously made certain statements that didn't make Benjamin Netanyahu very happy. Iran also had very suspicious attacks in the past few days. The attack in Bandar Abbas area. There was also a suspicious attack happening yesterday inside of Iran. Iran could potentially be viewing this as a retaliation or acts of sabotage coming from Israel to try and hinder the prospect of reaching a deal with the United States administration. A deal that the United States is now seeking after it unilaterally withdrew from in the first term of Donald Trump. Why? Because of Israeli pressure, the same pressure coming from Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel doesn't want the United States to have a deal with Iran. However, they're already preparing that the United States might have a deal with Iran. Research centers in Israel and senior ministers in the government have been briefed several days back that the likelihood of the United States getting a deal with Iran about its nuclear program are more likely than a no deal. So Israel wants to hinder that. Therefore, it might be the side behind these attacks. One Iranian parliament member, he said that Israel is behind them because there were 4 explosions in the port, and the attacks yesterday, they're still fresh. But Israel has done and conducted certain acts of aggression and terror and sabotage against Iran. So this is showing that if Iran wants to indeed support, they have the capacity. Hegseth, the United States Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, 2 days ago, he said he actually warned Iran. So he's taking a position like, unlike those who are negotiating, saying, we're seeing what you're doing with Yemen. We're seeing what you're doing with Yemen. Have they observed any recent movements coming between Iran and Yemen that led to a very successful attack on the gate of Israel to the world, which is the Ben Gurion. Ben Gurion Airport is the main airport for Israel. Most of the flights happen from Ben Gurion. The alternative ones in the north and south, they don't have the same capacity. And it's important to note that Ben Gurion Airport and the Tel Aviv area that includes the Kiryat, the main hub from which Israel's crimes are managed, the security establishment and the political establishment, it has the most advanced air defense system. It has the most advanced layer of defense in the whole of Israel because of its sensitivity. Therefore, it has the most batteries, the most resources, the most missiles available, the most backup plans that are happening. Yet, despite all of that, Ansarullah are going and attacking. Now, this could be directly an attack coming from Yemen that somehow succeeded this time because of their modification. So there is a chance that it's totally not linked with Iran. However, the Israelis are trying to link it to Iran because they always want to escalate the tensions further, especially between the United States and Iran too. What is Israel going to do about all of that? Trump told them before, leave Yemen to me. Your people don't have to pay. The Americans will pay. The American taxpayer will pay to go and attack a country that is taking action against a genocidal entity and fulfilling its international legal obligations. Of course, they wouldn't use this terminology because they're on the wrong side of history. They have been and still are for a very long time. But Donald Trump told Israel, don't attack Yemen, leave Yemen on me. We have seen more attacks coming from the United States against Yemen, far more than during the days of Joe Biden. And Donald Trump, indeed, made very significant threats against Yemen. And Israel adhered to the demand of the United States not to attack Yemen now because the United States is leading that front and therefore there is no need. I mean, from an Israeli perspective, they're all saying, well, America is doing this on our behalf. They have more resources, more capabilities. And from our perspective, it's a very long journey that is full of risks. 2,000 kilometers to fly over the Red Sea to go and attack Yemen when the United States is already there. Struggling, but it's already there. Now, Israel now is changing the tone slightly. So they're saying that no, we actually need to take action now. The red line has been crossed, and Israel is considering breaking the rules against the Houthis. They're saying in this report here in Ma'arif, Israel is considering a change in policy towards the Houthis after a missile launch from Yemen. Al-Bukhaiti threatens escalation and warns we have painful targets in Israel. The defense establishment believes that this is a response to American pressure. So they know that the more the United States escalates with Yemen, the more likely it is for Yemen to escalate against Israel, not just the American forces in the Red Sea killing innocent Yemenis with these constant attacks and trying to whitewash them by saying that we targeted the Houthi targets above the ground. But from an Israeli perspective, they don't want to be viewed as a side who constantly gets a beating and are not responding and having someone on their behalf attacking. Why? Because Israel's trying to create the perception that they are the be-all and end-all. They are the ones who make the decisions. They are the ones who can go and attack everywhere in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Syria, and no one retaliates. Yemen is the only country outside of Gaza now, the only side outside of Gaza, raising the flag of resistance and challenging Israel despite all of the pressure, due to various reasons, of course, the nature of the Yemeni people, their faith, their belief, their moral positioning, and their absolute fearlessness. These people are totally fearless and nothing puts them away. I mean, we saw some of the attacks that the United States has been conducting against Yemen. Now the Yemeni people take it. It's as if nothing's happening. It's as if a fly is flying when a half-a-ton bomb is landing next to these people. But from an Israeli perspective, that bothers them. Why? Because it's like a small, not a small really, a very significant challenge, constantly poking Israel and showing them, no, it's not what you're portraying yourself to be. If other countries choose not to retaliate against your terror in their lands for their own reasons, we're not going to be that side. And guess what? We're not going to be that side, and we're going to prove to the whole world that it's effective. And this is what they've done. The Red Sea is a red zone for anything linked to Israel. The Eilat port bankruptcy from over a year ago. Now they are escalating to a level where they're trying to impose a blockade on Israeli airspace effectively. Again, it's working. Israel, with all the censorship that's happening in Israel, is confirming that this missile landed, a modified missile, and they're trying to say that, oh yeah, we need to respond now. What can they do? This is the question here. Will Israel go and attack Yemen? What can they do? And is there a prospect of stopping the Yemeni attacks? Well, number one, let's start with the prospect of stopping the Yemeni attacks. It isn't going to happen. Gaza and Yemen are very similar in a sense of these people have suffered so much. Yemen, coming out from wars, from poverty, from famine, and likewise in Gaza, under Israeli occupation and terror and blockade and displacement for almost a century, right? Mainly after 1948, more so after 1967, moving on from 1987 post the initial uprising, the Palestinian Intifada, the first one, that started from Gaza because an Israeli decided to run over people, and they just had enough and started throwing stones on the Israeli occupying forces. This is where it started. These people, 73% of the population are refugees. The situation has been catastrophic way before October the 7th. Yemen and Gaza, they have a similar mindset in a sense of they're willing to take that sacrifice, and they don't have other justifications that they prioritize before their humanitarian and religious and national duties towards their people. So they're not really calculating, oh, if we attack, we might have some blockade, we might have sanctions, they might attack our economic interests, they want to drag us into the war so that they can occupy. They do not follow this type of argument. They're way beyond this argument in Yemen. So you've had the United States with the most advanced fleets on earth going there only to prove how much of a paper tiger it is. 4 American aircraft carriers expelled from the Red Sea by attacks from the same people who are wearing flip-flops and doing whatever they can to attack them, to deter them. They weren't threatening the United States, by the way. Yemen. Yemen are not threatening anyone, by the way. This is what they want you to believe. This is the perception that they're trying to brainwash the people with. Oh, Yemen, and the British Secretary of Defense the other day saying, oh, we need to go and protect security and freedom. Security and freedom for who? For people to murder children in Gaza. Continue the sentence. They're trying to hide the fact, their abhorrent position of going to Yemen only for the sake of Israel, burning taxpayers' money, burning money they can spend internally on people with need, people who are desperate, people hardly making ends meet, recessions in many countries without any declaration, so that they can maybe, make it pass as if there's nothing happening, economical disasters. But they have money. They have millions. They have hundreds of millions and billions to go and spend for the sake of a genocidal war criminal entity. Therefore, what is Israel going to do? If the United States is failing with its attacks in Yemen, what is Israel going to do? Are they going to go and conduct another show that will cause a lot of fire, attack another oil field or something, so something can explode and burn and show the whole world, oh, look, we're burning? Are they going to kill thousands of innocent children and women? And do they think that by doing that they will be? They haven't been deterred for years of conspiracies against the Yemeni people and regional and international coalitions against these poor people in Yemen, who are bravely standing up now for Gaza. because of their do so. Even if Israel wants to carry out attack, it's not going to be effective. But the main question of Israel, before they actually make a decision whether they respond to Yemen or not, will be if the United States gives the blessing. Because believe it or not, there's still some difference here and there between the administration in the US and Israel. As a matter of fact, there's an internal conflict in the US administration, especially with the more hardline Zionist lobby. And internally, Donald Trump had to make certain changes. Now, if the United States says, well, no, you can't do anything about that, and we are still in our position, don't attack Yemen, we are taking care of Yemen, clearly ineffective, then Israel would have to sit there and do nothing and show itself in a very humiliating manner. The other option is Trump might tell them, fine, have a symbolic attack. They might kill some innocent people or have a very large explosion to try and show that we still have some sort of presence. Both ways, this will not be stopping the Yemeni people. What will stop the Yemeni people is, like they said many times, stopping the genocide in Gaza and lifting the siege off the Gaza Strip.